Let's bring in Katherine Albrecht. Katherine, we're going to break here in a few minutes. You'll be with us for the rest of the hour. This is breaking news. Our source gave us. We went there. We confirmed it. Got incredible intel because Google and Bilderberg use this as a substation now in Watford, England, confirming so much. Now on the heels of the IRS spying, this really shows how these technocrats use their surveillance of us against the American people as a tool of tyranny. I guess it's been said many times, if you don't have your privacy, there's no chance you can be a free person.
Well, and that's why I always say privacy is not an end, it's a means, and the end is really freedom, and they know that, and for them, taking away your privacy is not an end.
Yeah, notice how they get privacy and taxpayer-paid for security as if we're terrorists, but then we can't have any privacy.
Yeah, that's a good point, isn't it? So, yeah, but I think they recognize if they take away our privacy that they can also take away our freedom, because that's really, they go hand in hand. I mean, privacy in and of itself isn't worth too much unless it leads to you having a better life that's not under the thumb of somebody else, which is why we all want to hang on to it.
Well, sure, and they want to know what you think, what you're into, so they can tailor their propaganda. I mean,
well, absolutely. That way, you know, it's a great example of that. In Spy Chips, our book, we talked about how the soft drink companies want to put, actually it was Procter & Gamble, wants to put a reader device in your fridge so they can tell when you drink the last Coke, so that they can run an ad on your television for Pepsi. And once the cable TV, you know, they just send an ad going, hey, the person on, you know, with this account number needs to have an ad for Pepsi right now. And then they can follow up and see how well the ad worked because they're
and then that
your
conditions
fridge.
you that it's all non-threatening, as the former CIA director said, your refrigerator spying on you. They're just mainlining it like it's cute and funny. And that's what our inside sources have told us. And then they actually do that via PR, confirming our sources. They're like, oh, we're sweet, though, when we spy on you.
It's market research because, and it starts off with products and then it works its way into worldviews, because what you do, as soon as you can figure out, all right, you're in the market for soda, let me see if I can get you to switch to Pepsi. Let me try these 5 different ads. Oh, that one worked. Okay. So now I know in the future, anybody with your demographics, I'll run that ad. Look how effective that is, and they can follow up and see if it worked. And you can do the same thing with people's political views, their worldviews, the things they care about. You see, gee, a whole bunch of people are having this one particular view. Let's try feeding them a set of ads, feeding them content on television, feeding them certain Google results, feeding them in a particular way to mold their minds, and then we can follow up and see.
And
now
then they can slowly.
Do they go to the websites now we want them to go to? Do they make the changes we want them to make?
Okay, absolutely. We're going to break down why Google and stuff now only shows you what it thinks you want to see. That's to make you comfortable, and then they slowly change it. Stay with us. Ladies and gentlemen, I've realized why this radio show is successful. It's because I'm real. Despite all of my hyperventilating, all of my getting excited, people know it's real. And I think about Google and all the crimes they've committed, all the things they've done, all the dirty tricks they've played on me over the years. And I don't mean all the Google employees, but the people at the very top of it. And then I know who they are. I know their plan. I've read the Internet 2 meetings for like 15 years online. I've tracked them. I've interviewed all the experts. And then I hear Katherine Albrecht bringing stuff up, and I start literally stuttering and gibbering because it's making me so mad. It'd be like if I went to my neighbor's house and went, hey, there's guys in your backyard, robbing your shed, stealing all your lawn equipment. And he said, well, how do you know that? Well, I mean, they got a truck, they're loading it up. Did you sell that to somebody? I know we're being robbed, okay? And I'm sitting here watching it year after year, decade after decade. And now they're talking about how they're going to censor the web and control us in the news, not just from my Bilderberg sources. And they're using all our data, and they're surveilling us, and they are tracking us, and they're bad guys. People are like, well, what do I have to hide? Well, you don't want bad guys to know when you've left your house so they can rob you. It's the same thing. These are bad guys. This is a short segment, long segment coming up. Katherine, how big is this tied into the IRS, though? Because if people think the IRS targeting folks that, quote, promote the Constitution, that's in the Washington Post today, see, that's a bad guy. That's a bad government. Because the Constitution binds them down. It's like WikiLeaks has the quote of Kissinger in a letter at Bilderberg saying, The illegal we do immediately, the unconstitutional takes longer. These are criminals, so of course they're saying, go after people that want to bind us down with law. Katherine Albrecht, again, Harvard-educated doctor of science and technology and policy, joins us. How big is this IRS thing tied into this?
Well, where are you going to find the people? You know, this is really what it comes down to today, because in 3 generations ago, even 1 generation ago, if you wanted to figure out who are all the groups who hold these particular views, then you would go to, I don't know, the IRS, the FBI, the NSA, the CIA, the local police department. Where do you go today if you want to figure out who believes what or who thinks what or who holds what views? You would be stupid to go anywhere other than Google. Because what Google really is, and this is when it finally hit me, Alex, and all of a sudden, like, all these years I've been kind of trying to understand what Google's all about, just crystallized for me, is back in the 1980s, I have an undergraduate degree in marketing, international marketing, and this was before the internet, and all my professors said, you're never going to be, your biggest challenge is in marketing is market research, because people won't tell you what they're thinking about, right? So if I were to call up somebody listening to the show right now and say, hey, listen, I'm a market researcher, just have a bunch of questions for you. Do you have 20 minutes for me? They'd say, first of all, no. And I'd say, no, really, just bear with me, please. Do you have erectile dysfunction? Ever fought with your spouse? Do you have any, sexually transmitted diseases? Dealing with bankruptcy? Maybe you're, maybe you've got a kid that's on drugs. You would say, take a hike. I'm not answering any of that stuff. It's none of your business. So what Google has hit on, and once I finally understood this, all of a sudden everything clicked into place, is Google is not a search engine. They are not an information provider. They're a market research company. And back in the 80s, we couldn't figure out how to get the market research information, but Google hit on the most brilliant thing that has ever, it blows my mind. I sit here in awe of just the genius evil of these guys. What they did was they said, well, I know how we can get people to tell us everything, like whether they've had an abortion or a miscarriage or a fight, or if they had, their deepest, darkest secrets they wouldn't tell anybody. What we do is we just put a little window on everybody's computer in the privacy of their own homes with the shades drawn. And then we let them type into it everything about themselves, and then we just capture it all. And I'm sure somebody said, well, how are you going to get them to do that? And they said, well, why don't we just answer all their questions? So the thing people need to understand when you log on, and it's not just Google, it's Yahoo and Bing, because Microsoft's in on this too. They're all part of it. That when you log on and you ask a question, that they are not your mom. They do not exist. I mean, ask yourself, why are they answering all my questions for free? They're not your mom. They have no reason to want to give you anything. They do it because they want to know what's on your mind. Now, once they do that for market research purposes, because that's basically what they do, they sell us to marketers. So I've got a brand new, neon pencil that glows rainbow colors, and I want to know everybody who's interested in rainbow colors who's ever bought a pencil. And Google goes, oh yeah, I can give you that narrow little niche.
And again, the globalists are experts, Katherine, because they always fund their criminal operations with a free market thing, but that's only one sector, as you know, of what they're really doing. You read more of the internal corporate minutes of Google and others that have leaked. I know you know about these. They call it over-the-horizon time prediction or a crystal ball, and they now brag that they can tell the future with an individual 93% of the time, with mass groups 98% of the time. They know you're going to pull over at that steakhouse before you do. This is literally the Eye of Sauron. All right, going back to Dr. Katherine Albrecht, a talk show host right here on this network, continuing to look at what the IRS is doing. Again, if the IRS and Obama are in trouble using data to persecute people and using it against political candidates, imagine what's going on with Google. And their whole history, 14 years ago, set up by the NSA and CIA, that's a fact. But when I started covering that, they delisted me from Google News, which, again, is the future everyone is going to face if we let them convert to their technocratic takeover. So, Katherine, getting into this and where this is going and ways to defeat them and all the other facets to this, thank you for joining us. Break that down.
Well, it's interesting because what used to be really hidden 10, 15 years ago when the internet was first coming to life is now not only obvious because you and I have been talking about it for years, but now they're coming out and saying it. And I don't mean to just pick on Google. Google certainly deserves it, but I think we also need to take a look at what's going on with Yahoo and Bing, which is Microsoft, which is Bill Gates, who's got, I mean, you've done a great job of informing people about all the stuff Bill Gates is up to all over the world. So it's all kind of part of the same thing. Let me point something out that I'm sure you have millions of listeners right now who have Yahoo email accounts. And on June 1st, all of those millions of listeners in like 2 weeks here are going to have to sign up for the new version of Yahoo Mail. And I just want to read this one sentence off of Yahoo's new webpage here. Do I have to upgrade to the new version of Yahoo Mail? Listen to what they say. When you upgrade, you'll be accepting our communications terms of service and privacy policy. This includes the acceptance of automated content scanning and analyzing of your communications content. Now, this is the kind of thing that would have been buried. This is like paragraph 2 of their main page of, hey, upgrade. So it's no longer even hidden. That's the part that's blowing my mind, Alex, is you and I have been pulling this stuff out of the shadows and showing it to people for years, and people are like, oh, they'd never do that. I had one person, I remember when I was doing my doctoral research, I asked people, do you know what the supermarket card is for? Do you know that every time you scan that thing at your grocery store, they make a record of what you buy, and they can tell exactly the health profile of your family because of it? And I had people look me in the eye and say, that's not true, I don't believe it, that's conspiracy theory, I don't buy it, they're not the CIA. And, you know, I've got incontrovertible proof that that's exactly what they do. And now they're coming out and saying it openly. That's what they want to do. So now you've got articles in the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times saying, yes, well, since we have these nutritional health profiles on every household in America, we're going to tie that in with Obamacare and use it, the frequent shopper cards to monitor your health. Well, it's now the same thing with the email. They're now coming right out on Yahoo. And then I want to get into this Google patent that we were talking about behind the scenes here, that Google has now filed a patent to do the same thing, saying that not only are we going to be reviewing all your email, which they do through Gmail, it's in the fine print, every single email you send or receive, they are analyzing, just like Google here, content scanning and analyzing your communications content, but in real time, this Google patent, if you type something that they don't like, right there, as you're typing it, it will stop you from literally typing the words. Like a screen will pop up.
Unbelievable. Oh, it's already like iPhones won't let you send a cuss word or even, you know, say double E hockey sticks. I mean, this is the nanny state on steroids. And there's the headline exclusive. Google CIA invest a future of web monitoring. And folks, show people the headline so I can tell them the source on that. That's Wired magazine. I mean, these guys are out in the open on their power trip building this artificial control grid environment, just like they game the stock market with instant trading. They're doing the same thing here. This has got to stop.
So can you imagine that not only would they know if you were typing something bad in their minds, right? I believe in the Constitution. No, you can't say that. that merely writing the letters CONSTIT, they'd go, nope, and then a little nanny window would pop up. This is what they've patented now with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. It's a formally, officially signed, sealed, and delivered document from Google. And what they want to be able to do is say, no, as you're typing the words that we don't like, a little window pops up and says, we're sorry, you can't say that. You're going to have to rephrase it or just delete it or just not say it at all. So not only are they watching or planning to watch, well, already today they're reading and watching every single Google Gmail you send or receive. Even if you don't have a Google account, by the way, if you send an email to somebody with a Gmail account, you agree contractually to their terms of service, even though you haven't even read them because it didn't even cross your mind because you're not the one with the account. But if I send an email to somebody who has a Gmail account and it says, hi, my name's Katherine Albrecht, here's my social security number, for whatever reason, right? Maybe they're a banker, maybe they're my doctor, whatever. Then at that point, Google says, we own that information. And they'll strip it right out, even though it's my doctor's Gmail account. They'll strip out my information, take my social security number right out of that email, and pop it in the Katherine Albrecht account. And you may say, well, why would Katherine Albrecht have a Google account? I have news for people. Every single person on this globe has a Google account. They have one for all of us. Every person they can find, every house, every front of your home. They do Google Street View. They have a picture of the curtains hanging in your window.
And this is beyond 1984. Because they admit they're surveilling and creating detailed psychological algorithm profiles of everybody. And it's beyond 1984 because your smartphone, your appliances, the smart meters all surveil you. And if you don't let them put the smart meter on your house, they come and try to arrest you. And then they brag and call themselves technocrats and talk about how they're going to merge with machines and become God. They are literally on insane power trips.
It's crazy, right? And you're, of course, referring to Sergey and Larry saying, you know, what do you want Google to become? And their answer was like the mind of God. And then the guy that they just hired to head up their entire IT is the man, Ray Kurzweil, who believes that in 2045, humanity will merge with our machines and we'll have a singularity, at which point humanity will become immortal.
And by the way, it's not just Kurzweil. He's their guru and goes to the globalist meetings, and they believe it's actually going to be sooner. They just put that number out there, they say, so we don't get freaked out. Human culture is already over as we knew it because of TV. Now I go out in public, no one's talking. They're all on their smartphones, myself included. But at least I'm talking to people about the Matrix and how to fight it using the system. I'm not saying that's okay. They are just, parents don't even talk to their kids now. In between the TV, the video games, and the smartphones, the language is shrinking, Catherine. Where do you see this all ultimately going?
Well, you know, this is enslaving technology. I mean, I've got an article here about when they hired Ray Kurzweil onto Google. Ray Kurzweil plans to create a mind at Google and have it serve you. So this is this plan that there's going to be this artificial intelligence. Something else he said is that our technology will be, in a very short time, 1 billion times more powerful than it is today. And it's going to become so overwhelming that we will not be able to comprehend it. And the only way we're going to be able to catch up is by uploading ourselves into it, by actually dumping these packages of meat called bodies and becoming one with this technological web. And
well, listen, this is in my book, Descent into Tyranny. There was a 1977 Pentagon document with the World Federation of Scientists overseeing it. It was declassified in 2001 and then reclassified the next year. But they say we're all going to be in these tank pods hooked into wires, and that we'll power ourselves, and it'll end all war. And people are going, wait a minute, that's the Matrix. The Matrix is actually a movie talking about what they planned in the 70s.
Isn't it crazy? I know. And so I keep listening to Alex, everybody, because he gets this stuff years before anybody else does.
Well, no, I mean, I'm not bragging about it.
No, but
I don't get it. They declassified it. I mean, they're going to put us in tank pods.
Yeah.
I mean, they're crazy.
And the reason that you get that is because you've got your nose to the ground and they tell us these things. You know, they come out and actually say, here's what we're going to do. And initially they say it in places that are hard to find, and you got to really look, and you got to be aware.
And then if you cover it, the media says you're a liar, knowing people won't go find where you got it. I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's right. No, it's true. It's true. And then they try to say, no, you're a conspiracist, or you're creating outrageous scenarios to scare people. And then 2-3 years later, they put it right on their homepage, like Google's doing, or like Yahoo is doing.
Oh, yeah. 8 years ago, Watson wrote about their patent to have a camera and microphone listen to you with keyword software. And now everywhere I know says that it must be listening because it knows what they're doing from what they're talking about in the room. And now Google admits it.
See, there you have it. And, you know, like, once again, this Yahoo Mail, you know, this includes your acceptance of automated content scanning and analyzing your communication content. Who looks at that and goes, oh, okay. I mean, this is, let's tie this back to the IRS issue. So we know, because of this IRS thing, that governments, and this is what they've always done, they like identifying their opponents so that they can then single them out and punish them and harm them. And it may be that they punish them with an IRS audit, which is pretty darn punishing, or it may be that they punish them with the black limo drives up at night and disappears half your family members. But governments punish people who oppose their regime. And this is the problem that you have when you are letting them know every correspondent that you have, when you're letting them know every personal thought, because you're sending it all through these email programs, or you're typing all your searches into these search boxes, then it absolutely is inevitable that the government is going to say, okay, well, today it was the people who like the Constitution. Tomorrow I want to know everybody who has a brain in their head. Let's identify them all. You know, that's what they did in Cambodia. Pol Pot killed all of the people with college degrees And when he was done, he killed all the people with high school diplomas. And when he was done, he killed all the people who wore glasses because he figured that meant that they could read. And when he was done, he killed everybody who could read. And when he was finally done and had killed 1/4 of the population of Cambodia in the 1970s, at that point he said, okay, now let's modernize the country and build dams and bridges. And of course, he had all these illiterate peasants trying to build dams, and they all broke, and it was a disaster. But he identified his opponents at some future, it's at an eventual point, as anybody smart, because he knew that what he was doing was so evil that anybody with any intelligence at all would oppose him, and so he just killed them all. So this is why you don't want to let government know your every viewpoint, your every attitude, even if it's innocuous, like I wear glasses. Keep it to yourself, because they're going to use it against you. It's inevitable. It's how they work. So crazy stuff.
Well, Catherine, you've got the floor, because if I interrupt here, I'm going to run over you. Keep going. Keep rolling.
Well, yeah, so let me jump in, and I know that your listeners, because we've been talking about this a couple of times for 2 years since we've been building StartMail, is we need to be developing tools to have alternatives. And, the tools that I work on, startpage.com, xquick.com, startmail.com, that's the stuff I'm trying to contribute. But you have brilliant listeners out there with backgrounds in computers and engineering and technology, and we've got a lot of smart people on our team. I was really encouraged by something I heard out of Austin, Texas, which I know you have everything to do with this. Somebody was telling me that they did a poll in Austin, and 29% of Austin, Texas residents identified not as Republicans or Democrats or independents, but as members of the Liberty Movement. And that's absolutely, your voice and my voice. We're broadcasting through Austin. 29% of people is a revolution. So let's take that 29%, 30%, a third of America is now caught on, woken up, and alive, and paying attention to this stuff, and we are in an information war. Let's get those people out there, first of all, getting off of these bad tools and onto the good tools, and then second of all, building them. Let's build a new DNS server. Let's build, that doesn't transmit every website you go to Big Brother. Let's build
and by the way, we've got to do this soon, because you were going to be on last week, but we had breaking news. Google has delisted us off Google News years ago. Now they're putting out fake reports on Drudge and InfoWars, and even CNET News had to admit it's Google software we're not even running. Google is lying. This is exactly what they're calling for, what Paul Watson was saying. Their minutes at Bilderberg, they're planning to try to bring in a blacklist like the D notices they have in England to block our sites off the web.
So can we talk about that and the filter bubble, because they go hand in hand? So most people don't realize that there's this thing called a filter bubble, which is, you think that Google is just going to give you the truth about everything all the time, because we view them, like I said earlier, like mom, right? You go to your mom, hey, why is the sky blue? And she'll do her best to give you the answer. You go to Google, though, and you say, why is the sky blue? And they take a look at your past history and say, well, let's see, what kind of an answer do we think you're looking for? And if we think that you're looking for, and the reason this filter bubble is so important, they give you the answers that they think you are seeking based on your previous searches, based on their understanding of the little tiny bubble of demographics that they put you in. And the problem that this creates, Alex, is that when you and I go online and we look up, for example, Monsanto, right, or Monsanto GMO, if we go onto Google and do that, you and I are both going to get a whole list of things telling you how terrible
they admit it's
it is.
Social engineering to put us in our own bubble, and then phase 2 is they start twisting what's in that bubble as well. This is literally digital prisons. Google, folks, is the beast system. Google is evil incarnate. You know what Hank Hill says about Google, don't you? That Google is just plain evil. I don't do a very good... a very good Hank Hill. We were just talking about Hank Hill during the break. I'll be gone, like I said. I try to joke around about this stuff. This is ultra creepy. They plan to dominate the future. This is the future of warfare. They are robbing you of your privacy, and they think it's all a big joke. And it is a nightmare fight we're talking about. Katherine Albrecht's our guest in this segment and the next. Then Richard Belzer is going to be joining us, because he was on during the Boston bombing when it happened, when we said, okay, if there's drills, if there's stand-downs, if the patsies are connected to the FBI and CIA, it's a staged event. And then all of that happened. And now we know it was a staged event. And just like I told you, the IRS is persecuting people before this came out. I know a bunch of people being persecuted. I've had a little bit of it. I've talked to people inside the IRS, their biggest IRS center in the country's here in Austin, like 2 miles from where I sit. And again, Google makes the IRS look like angels because they are something from 1913. And it is just incredible how they've now come out and go, the IRS is watching your bank account without warrants. Oh, the Defense Department is watching everything you do in real time. And they're building all sorts of NSA bases everywhere with Google built next door. Google is their front. Google is so they're not under government oversight. Google was set up. Katherine Albrecht getting into how they try to put us into these reservations and how important it is to break out of that, to use other search engines like StartPage.com, XQuick. But whatever you do, just get away from the big guys. Get away from them now. What else do we do to fight these people?
Well, I think first we have to understand it, because when I was talking about this Monsanto example, and if I could just finish the example, it might clarify some things for some listeners who may not understand how this works. If you and let's say my father-in-law both log on to google.com and you both type in Monsanto GMO food, you're going to get page after page after page of links to like RT.com and all these, environmental working group.com, all these different groups that are going to tell you about how bad the genetic modification is, right? You've seen them, I've seen them.
Because it knows you're already awake, so it lets you see that. Daddy ain't going to get any of that.
That's right. Now, when my father-in-law logs on, he's going to get a bunch of investment links that say, hey, Monsanto's stock is up due to their GMO advancement in Africa. Or they might get a link that says GMO crops are breaking new ground and improving health worldwide. Or GMO crops are praised by Ambassador so-and-so of,
Or Supreme Court rules in favor of Monsanto today.
Yes. And so what this does, though, is it creates this notion for us, and this is really important to understand this. For those of us who are awake, it creates the impression that everybody else sees and knows what we know, but they just don't care. And so we then say, well, don't you guys care about what Monsanto's doing? And they look at you and they're like, yeah, they're doing GMO stuff. And you're like, but don't you care? And they say, no, it's great. And so because the information they're being fed is information about how great it is, oh, yeah, they've introduced vitamin B into the rice in
And they
Thailand.
do that on YouTube now, run by Google, and every ad company we use, Google ends up buying. They're creating this oligopoly, and you're absolutely right. That's why you've got to send links to people. You've got to show it to them on your smartphone.
That's right.
You've got to be active, folks. Don't just fight in the technocracy. Fight physically.
Because they're ghettoizing us. And so if they ghettoize you and the people that you're trying to reach are seeing a completely different picture of reality, then you are not going to be able to reach them. You're not going to be able to talk to them. And the last thing in the world you got to say to somebody is, oh, just Google it.
Now explain how explain how the Romans use ghettos and others. The ghettoization of Google, the Nazi command base. Stay with us. All right, Katherine Albrecht's been on with us, and she's only scratching the surface. I mean, she's a doctor of Harvard studying science, technology, consumer affairs, and it is a revolution against humanity. Technology is an incredibly empowering thing. Like a gun. Can be used to hunt, protect yourself, whatever. But in the hands of bad guys, it's super bad. Well, this makes guns look tame. This makes bioweapons look tame because they're able to track humans, study humans, and control us. The globalists see themselves as a breakaway society, and they're creating these internet ghettos the last year where they're killing the viral spread of liberty messages by only serving you your own YouTube videos. I mean, I could tell my wife did a few searches on the computer in our bedroom on tap dancing. She likes to dance. Tango, tap dancing, she does it all. And now, I'm on there and it's tap dancing stuff everywhere instead of just anti-New World Order stuff. Now, I do such wide searches that mine isn't as bad, but I go to families' houses or I get on other people's computers and you can see also what they're into. And again, that is trying to keep, this is an ancient tactic. Katherine Albrecht, in closing, explain this to people, KatherineAlbrecht.com.
Yeah, so it's critical that people understand this because they're using the tools that we think open up our vistas to really close them. And you've mentioned StartPage, which is the private search engine that I helped to develop that lets you get to Google results without actually being tracked and monitored by Google. And it breaks you out of the filter bubble, because when you go to start page, let's say you search for Monsanto, we give you just the generic Monsanto results because they don't have your tracking cookies and your history. They don't even know who you are. So they have to just serve you the generic results. So sometimes it's interesting just experimentally to go and see, what does Google consider to be the generic results on topic X?
And remember, even if you turn Google off and say don't have cookies, they break that on record. And I mean, this is a criminal group.
Yeah, no, it's wild. And this is what they do. They figure out ways to get more information than you know that they're getting. I mean, that's what they're brilliant at. But the other thing I want to remind people, and we don't talk about it very often when I come on the show, but Ixquick, which is IXQUICK, Ixquick.com, returns search results from everybody but Google. And the reason I really like Ixquick is that there's times when you know that you're not getting the result you should be getting, or you're not being told something you should be getting told. And if you look on Google, you don't find it because they know your history. You go to Start Page, you don't find it potentially because Start Page is giving you Google results, which we get from Google. We just strip out the privacy stuff, but we're giving you a straight feed from them. And then if you're not finding it still, go to Ixquick, and I have found an incredible result. When I go to Ixquick.com and I search for something that I'm just not finding, all of a sudden I get all these links and results, like the whole first page is different. And I'm like, where has all this stuff been all my life? Like, where was this hiding? So I would encourage people to, first of all, stop, pull the Google needle out of your arm, switch to Start Page as your homepage if you like the Google results. And then when you really want to go deeper, go to Ixquick or make it your homepage. They're both great. The other thing I want to tell people is we have Start Mail is now in internal beta testing. We're about to get you your free account, Alex. I can't wait. I'm so excited because fully encrypted, we're talking off the chart. Nobody, even us, can read anything that you write through Start Mail. So all these people out here who are like, well, thanks, Catherine. You just told me my Yahoo account's going to get read and my Gmail's getting read. So what the heck are you going to propose as a solution? We're building it. It's built. It's startmail.com. There's a place on there where people, Alex Jones listeners, can go and sign up as beta testers on there. And it's done. It's made. It's here. I'm so excited. I've been testing it out, kicking the tires. I love it. And we're talking about a user vault that is so well encrypted, as I said, even we cannot read the email of people who send email in our system. And that's the kind of thing we need to see, not just in search engines like Start Page and Ixquick and Start Mail, but we need to see it in everything.
Absolutely. Google is trying to shut down the real alternative media. We have to have an exodus away from all their systems as much as we can. They're like half the web now, so it's hard, so that we build alternatives to them. They are forcing us. Necessity is the mother of invention. Katherine Albrecht, we'll talk to you again very, very soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alex. Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure having you. All right, we got Richard Belzer coming up, and I'm going to recap the top stories and hit some breaking news.